In this installment, we're going to take a look at the Mental Ray Physical Sun and Sky system. In the lighting project under the Scenes folder, you should find a file called Wagon Sunlight version 1. Let's go ahead and open that up. In here we have a simple wagon set up here. We've got perspective as the camera. And if you hit 7, there's really no lights in here at all. We'll go ahead and open the render settings window and switch to Mental Ray. In here we're going to go into the indirect lighting tab and click on create for the physical sun and sky. This opens up a couple of nodes that we can see in the outliner. Sun direction, which is represented by this directional light. This directional light is not actually a light. It runs the physical sun and sky system according to its angle. If we take a look at our render, all we've done is created the sun and sky system. Go ahead and render this out in Mental Ray. When the render completes, you'll see a nice blue gradient for the sky and a fairly overlit scene here with the red wagon and a beautifully cast and very sharp shadow. A lot of the features come out in the wagon very nicely, slightly overblown. This gives us a noon lit situation because the sun direction is coming straight down. If we adjust the sun direction and have it come more horizontal to the ground plane, we'll see that the sun should be coming in from the front. Save this in the buffer and render. And you'll see that not only has the lighting and the direction changed, but so has the color and the intensity. This is wonderful because it gives you a feeling of a sunset. And the lower the sun goes, the more it sets. And this system is really quite slick. Allows you to just use the orientation of the sun direction to not only set the direction of your lighting, but also the mood and the ambiance and color of your lighting as well. In this scene, we have final gathering turned on for the physical sun and sky system. Let's say you're starting this from scratch. We'll go ahead and open up our trusty still life VO. Actually, let's go to VO4. Take a look at this scene and we'll go ahead and use the still life VO1 to create our physical sun and sky from scratch. And here we go. If we press 7, there will be no lights in the scene. Let's take a look at our render settings. We're on Maya software. Let's change that to Mental Ray. And let's go directly to indirect lighting. Now you'll notice that GI and final gathering are turned off. If I hit create physical sun and sky, it automatically turns on final gathering and gives you a fairly good preview in the settings for accuracy and point density. These govern the quality of the bounced light of the indirect lighting. Now we'll take a look for the sun direction, which should be shown as a directional light. There it is. Go ahead and front light this a little bit. Maybe off to the side. And we'll go ahead and render. The more you rotate the light, the more of a sunset feel you'll get. Now this is overblown. We'll come back and we'll adjust the intensities of what's going on in the light as we learn to edit the sun and sky. You get a very nice golden sort of light, but it is still pretty bright. So how do we adjust it? In the render settings, where you hit the create button is now the delete button. That's how you get rid of that whole system, because it's not just the light, it's actually changing some settings and inserting some environment maps that make this system work together. But if you click on the input button, we'll see two tabs in the attribute editor: MIA physical sky 1 and sun direction. Sun direction is, again, this little guy right there. Physical sky has a multiplier, and this is the basic intensity of the light. So if I change that to 0.5, we should get roughly half the light that we saw before. And indeed, that is true. So if we go to a more noon lit light, where we were extremely blown out before, go ahead and dump that, and there we go. That's what we had before. Now we're at half the intensity. Let's go ahead and render. And you start noticing many more details in the fruit. Now we'll go ahead and create an MIA material. We'll select all the objects, the fruit that were attached to the blend, and assign them to the MIA material, which I've already done here. And what we'll see here when we render is a much nicer result based on the fact that the physical sun and sky reacting with the MIA shader will yield a nicer result. We have a little bit of a glossiness on the MIA shader. We've turned that a little bit lower. But the quality of the diffusion of how the light rolls off the MIA shader with this system is really quite elegant. So let's take a quick look at some of the other attributes. We can create a bit of a haze. Let's go ahead and set a more dusky look and render this out. Now we have a nice clean render. We'll put it in the buffer, and let's take a look at some of the settings here. Let's create a little bit of a red-blue shift. Let's go ahead and put in 0.5 and take a look. You can see with a 0.5 red-blue shift we have quite a different coloring here. You can use this in small amounts to get a little bit of a color wash from the sun itself. That gives a nice bit of reality to that sunset. Okay, now let's take a look at haze. We're going to add a little bit of haze, let's say with a value of 4. What haze will do is create a bit of a wash over the sunlight, as if the sunlight was coming through a haze. And that gives you a much nicer and subtly even diffused lighting all around as the haze picks up and fills in some of the darker areas to create a slightly less harsh light. And you'll notice, especially in the shadows, how the haze tends to bring everything up a little bit overall. You can adjust the ground color and also the intensity of the sun if you choose to see it in the sky. If the sun is actually pointing your way, and you can have it do that if you so wish. Now, if you rotate the light below the horizon of the Earth, we'll get a pretty neat effect. Basically, you get nighttime. You get a little tiny bit of light coming in from the edge, and the haze is helping pull that out. In this video, we took a look at Mental Ray's physical sun and sky, and how it affects objects with regular Maya shaders, such as a blend, and how it affects the more complex Maya shader